Hey, what's up YouTube? Ronnix with it another tutorial, and in this tutorial I'll show you guys the in-depth skin retouching process. So in this tutorial you're going to be learning each and everything you want to know about skin retouching and how to remove blemishes and also to add a shape or dimension to your images using dodging and burning, and basically about eye whitening, and finally how to save your images in Photoshop. I know you may be wondering why I'm mentioning Photoshop before even opening the Photoshop application. I'll show you guys how I've done the adjustments, and I've already done color grading tutorials in Capture One. So if at all you may be wondering how I did all this, I'm going to put the link for you right above there. So I don't want to go through the Camaro process, and you can as well do this in Camaro. So what I basically did, I just had to balance the skin tones of the model so that the chest and the neck can really have matching colors or matching skin tones. So basically that is what I have done in Capture One, and some basic adjustments. So let me open the image right into Photoshop so that we can learn about each and every detail about skin retouching, and I guarantee at the end of this tutorial you're going to be able to retouch your images the best way possible, and you're going to get a difference in your images when you do retouch them after watching this tutorial in depth. And I would love to get your maximum attention in this tutorial because no one is going to explain this the way I do, I guarantee. So you have to follow every single step the way I'm mentioning it in this tutorial. So like I said, I already did those adjustments, so let's just kick in into Photoshop. So I'm just going to right click, sorry about this, I'm just going to get my pointer tool, then right click and edit with, and I'm just going to go to Photoshop. That is the version I'm using, and I'm just going to go right into Photoshop, and it is going to take a few seconds, and it is going to open up my Photoshop, and it is going to load this image so that we can learn about each and every single step about skin retouching or how to edit your images in Photoshop. So this is the image we have right now, and it is for a model and a friend of mine. She's called Karen. So we want to retouch this image so that we can basically what we want to do, we want to remove the blemishes in this very image. Yeah, cleaning up the image basically by removing the skin imperfections, and after that we are going to be doing skin retouching in depth, and you're going to be learning about each and every single step about skin retouching. So first of all, usually before I do any retouching, I usually make sure I crop the images. The reason as why I crop all my images is because I want to post these images or this photo onto Instagram and maybe Facebook. So when I do so, it is going to occupy the whole screen, or the person is going to look at the image. Remember, most people are Instagram using mobile devices, or even Facebook using mobile devices like mobile phones. So that's why I want to crop this image in that approved crop ratio. I'm just going to come right here and I'm going to get the crop tool. Then I'm going to look for the crop ratio that I need for Instagram. That is 4:5 or 8:10, like that. And after doing so, I think right here it is enough. And I'm just going to eliminate the negative space in this image by hitting enter like that. So it is going to take a short while, and it is going to finish cropping. So I'm just going to close that. Then after I've done so, this is the cropped image. So usually we want to first of all clean up the image so that we can have less work to do when we start the skin retouching process. So we're going to come right down here and we're going to create a new blank layer. So under this, I want to show you guys the various methods for removing pimples or acne or blemishes from your images. And the very first method, so we're going to name this layer blemishes like that. So the very first method is going to be by using the spot healing brush tool. So we have this, so come and select the spot healing brush tool, and after you have selected it, come and make sure you mark sample all layers like that. So when you mark or check sample all layers, it is going to sample from the background layer. Remember, this is just a blank layer and we want to sample or get information from the background layer. That's why you have selected or checked sample all layers. And after you have done so, you're just going to make sure the brush is bigger than the blemish. So make sure basically your caps key is off. So when your caps lock key is on, you're not going to be able to get the tools. Yeah, I have to mention this right away. You're going to be getting your tools looking way different from what they are meant to look like. So make sure you turn off the caps key, and you can just turn off mine and my tool is back. So how this works, you have to make sure you increase on the size of the spot healing brush tool, and it has to be basically slightly bigger than the blemish you want to remove. And now just click over the blemish or dab over the blemish to remove it. You can see the blemishes are now getting removed from the model's face like that. So basically it is just automatically sampling and replacing skin where the blemish was placed. So I hope you guys are seeing this. So this is the spot healing brush tool, and if at all you have less time for retouching, I would recommend this tool. Yeah, you have to use this to save time to remove the blemishes. So after, let me share with you guys the second tool you can use for removing blemishes, and this tool is going to be the healing brush tool. So under healing brush tool, when you select your healing brush tool, make sure you come right here and deactivate these two. So come and select current and below, because we want to sample from the current layer and the layer below. So how this works, you basically hold down the alternate key on the keyboard and click on a clean area. So you copy skin from a clean area and hold down the alternate key and just paint over the blemish you want to eliminate. So Alt, click on a clean area and just paint over the blemish or dab over the blemish to get rid of it. So same applies to this clone stamp tool. You have to come and select current and below, and you can do that to remove the blemishes. So just hold down the alternate key and just dab over the blemish you want to get rid of like that. So those are the tools I'm really conversant with for removing blemishes from your images. But for this case, I'm just going to go back to the spot healing brush tool because I don't want this tutorial to take forever. So I'm just going to get this tool and I'm just going to remove or clean up this very image, and we shall be diving straight into our skin retouching in less than a minute from now. So let's just clean up like that. So just take your time while cleaning up your images because it really saves a lot of time after or when you have done your skin retouching process. So you shouldn't mind if at all maybe I skip or leave out some of the blemishes, because you're going to be getting a tool that is going to flatten out most of those tiny blemishes we may have accidentally forgotten, yeah, when we are using the spot healing brush tool. So don't mind about removing every single detail by using the spot healing brush tool. So make sure you zoom in by using Ctrl or Command plus to zoom into the image, and zooming out, I hope you can see Ctrl plus and Ctrl minus does the magic. And to hover around after you have zoomed in, hold down the space bar key and just move like that. I hope you can see the image moving. So when you hold it down and you click and move, the image is going to move to a given direction you want it to go to. So I'm basically cleaning up the image. So I think like I've done a pretty nice job cleaning up the image. So we want to merge these two layers And before I can merge them, let me just get rid of this tiny white spot right there. So I'm going to merge these two layers, and before I can merge, let me show you guys the before and after for the blemish removal. You can see what we have just done. So we're going to merge these two layers by hitting Shift Command E or Shift Control E on the keyboard to harmonize or merge these two layers. And after doing so, you're going to now create two layers from the background layer. So apart from the background layer, just come and create two other layers by hitting Ctrl or Command J twice, or you can simply drag and drop on this new layer icon to create a new layer. So we're going to name this, we're going to name it color, or let me just put this in caps so that you guys can see everything. Color or tones. Or I'm going to name it LF for low frequency. Then I'm going to name the high layer texture like that, or HF for high frequency. So basically, under this tutorial, we're going to be learning about frequency separation. So what is frequency separation? Frequency separation basically is a skin retouching technique that is going to enable us divide the image into two. Yeah, it gets the image and divides it into two. That is why we have created these two layers. So we want the very first layer to contain the colors or the skin tones, and the other is going to contain the textures. So it really enables us to work independent on each and every layer and work on those details in that particular layer so that we can get the best out of that layer, so that when we combine both layers, we're going to be having a really nice and beautiful image. So that is basically what we have to aim at. So we're going to turn this off, yeah, by hitting the eye icon or the hiding the visibility of this layer, and come and select the tones or low frequency layer. So when you select it, come right to filter. Remember, for this layer, before you can do that, for this layer we only want to remain with the colors or the skin tones. So come right to filter and come to blur and come to Gaussian blur like that. So we're going to turn this all the way down. So here is where I need your maximum attention, guys. So after doing so, come and look for the area. So make sure you zoom out like that and look for the area that seems to have more skin textures than the rest of the skin in the image. So we're going to go with this particular area. So make sure your preview is on, and now start moving your radius towards the right hand side. So hold down and drag this tiny box until you start losing out on the skin textures in the image or the outlines. But as you're doing so, make sure you can still notice the facial structures in the image or the other structures in the image. So make sure you just move it until you have completely lost out on the details in the image. So you have to move while you look at this side and the overall image until you have lost out on the texture. So I'm going to go with a radius of 9. So at 9, I feel like we have lost out on the textures in this very image. And after doing so, I'm just going to come and hit OK. I hope you can see that. Then after doing so, I'm going to come and select the texture or high frequency layer, and I'm going to activate it. And after that, come to image and come to apply image. So after doing so, activate this texture or high frequency layer and select it. Then come to image and come to apply image like that. So after coming to apply image, you're going to be able to get this little window right here. I hope you can see it. So make sure, remember, when we are removing textures from the low frequency layer, we stored them somewhere, maybe in a given store somewhere. So we want to get back those textures so that we can put them on this texture or high frequency layer. And in order to do that, we're going to select the layer that has our stored textures, that is the color or skin tones layer. And remember, we want to steal or subtract them from this layer. Come at the blending mode and select subtract, like that. I know your image may be looking way different from what I have, because I've always used frequency separation and had saved some of the settings in my Photoshop. But when you follow every step like I'm showing you guys, you're going to be able to get to this image right here. So after doing so, make sure your invert is not selected or checked and your preview is on. So let me go a step back so that you guys can understand it and everything. Come right here and select the color or tones layer, because it is where the textures we removed were stored in this guy's store. So we kept the textures we had removed from here in a given place or storage room, I should say. So come and select that layer that has a storage room that is for our color or tones layer, and come and select subtract. And after selecting subtract, make sure your opacity is 100, preserve transparency and mask are not checked or marked. Then put scale 2 and offset 128. The reason for this is because we want to get our textures on a 50% gray, and in order to get a 50% gray, we have to divide the colors in the 256 colors or in the RGB by 2 to get 128. So 256 divided by 2, you get 128. That is the gray kind of layer we have right here. Come and click OK. And after clicking OK, you're going to notice that your textures or outlines are on this very gray kind of layer, but we are lacking colors. But you shouldn't mind about that. Come to the blending mode and change it from normal to linear light, like that. And you get back the image the way it was looking initially before. So we're going to select these two layers by holding down the Control or Command key and clicking on both layers to highlight or select them. Then we are going to put them in a group by hitting Control or Command G on the keyboard to put them in a group, or I can undo that, or you can simply drag and drop them to this new folder like icon to put them in a group. So after, we're going to rename that group for purposes of being uniform, frequency separation, like that. So after doing so, we are going to open our frequency separation group, and before you can do that, we want to see if at all there is any difference between our background layer and the frequency separation or divided image layer. So when you turn this on and off, you can see there is no difference at all between both layers. So meaning we have successfully done our frequency separation onto this image. So we're going to open this frequency separation group by clicking on the drop down icon like that. So first of all, we want to blend the skin tones. Remember, skin retouching is more of harmonizing or blending the skin tones together to have smooth transitions on the skin. And uneven transitions are caused by the way light falls on our different textures and creates that unevenness. So we want to harmonize our skin textures or the skin tones in the image to have a beautiful and more glamorous image, like those images you see in those top rated models or those glamour models. So we're going to open that and we're going to select the texture layer. So what we want to do, we want to see each and every area that is going to be containing the uneven skin tones that we are going to do or to harmonize in this very tutorial. So select the texture layer and you're going to come right down to the adjustments and click or select black and white, like that. So when I select black and white, I can still not notice the uneven skin tones in the image. But when I come to the reds and click on it and drag towards the left hand side, you'll start noticing the bumpiness or the bumps within the skin tones, and that is what we want to achieve in this tutorial. So come and close this, and after doing so, remember we want to blend the skin tones, meaning we have to come and select the color or the tones or the low frequency layer in this case. So come right here, and now you want to get a tool that is going to enable us blend these skin tones and harmonize them even more and better. So you're going to come right here under brushes, right click and look for your mixer brush tool. So this is a mixer brush tool, and you know I always have issues with people that claim that their brush is not working or the brush is causing a given effect. That is caused by you not setting up the brush well and working on a way different layer. So make sure you select the mixer brush tool. Let me repeat this. Right click and select the mixer brush tool. This is not your ordinary brush, it is called a mixer brush. Yeah, and after doing so, we want to set up this brush so that it's going to blend or even out the skin tones really nice and well. So we are going to come right above here, I hope you guys can see, and start setting it up. So come and drop down, make sure it is a clean brush. So we have two options right here. The very first option, when I leave my cursor on, it is going to show you guys load the brush after each and every stroke, meaning when you select this option, it is going to continue copying color from a previous area you have tried to blend and move it to a separate area or different area, which we don't want. So we're not going to highlight this option. Then the second option is cleaning the brush after each and every stroke. That is what we basically need, because we don't want to move color or skin tones from one area and we take it to a way different area. So make sure you highlight the second option or select it. So for this case, we are going to be using a wetness of, make sure you use a wetness between 7 and 9 if at all you really want nice and natural results out of your skin retouching process. And you're going to go with a load of 75%. The mix, you are going to go with a mix of 90%, and the flow, you're going to go with the flow of 100%. This is my own finding, so you can as well find different retouchers going for different results. Some people prefer to go with 30-30 and 30 all the way and a wetness of around 32. So it is all going to give you the same results, but for this case I prefer to use 9% for my wetness because I want to retain as much detail in the skin, and the load 75%, the mix at 90%, and the flow at 100%. Make sure sample all layers is not marked or selected because I want to only work on the color or tones layer, and I don't want to sample or copy textures from the texture layer or the black and white layer. So after I've done so, I'm just going to zoom into the image like that. So make sure your zoom is really nice and reasonable and it is not too much. So I'm going to go with this reasonable zoom. So after getting the brush, to increase on the size, use the brackets on the keyboard, and to zoom into your image you have to use Ctrl plus to zoom in your image and Ctrl minus to zoom out. So I'm going to start blending, and when you're blending, make sure you blend the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone in the image to harmonize them and create nice and smooth skin tone transition. Make sure you don't drag from the midtones to the highlights because it is going to distort or copy tones from one area to another, and it is going to give you a flat and natural and unrealistic kind of image at the end of your retouching. So you have to take that into consideration. So we're going to start blending. So come and reduce on the size depending on the area you're going to start blending and blend. So I have some kind of midtones right here, and I'm just going to blend them like that. So when you're blending, make sure you don't over blend a particular area for a long time because it is going to be doubling the wetness effect. Like if at all I blend here twice, it's going to be giving me wetness of around 18%, which I don't want. And remember, we are aiming for a more natural image and having a natural skin texture. So I have this highlight, I'm just blending it. Then I have some kind of midtones, I'm just going to blend them like that. So basically that is what I'm doing. So let me turn the black and white layer off so that you guys can see the results I've been able to achieve with just a few seconds of using the mixer brush tool and just painting over the image. So that is the image before after. I hope you guys are really loving the results from the mixer brush tool. So we want to do that on the overall image. So we're going to, like I said, you can as well work without the black and white layer, but for purposes of being uniform and precise with your skin tone blending, I would advise you use the black and white layer. So after, make sure you come back and select your color or tones or low frequency layer, reduce on the size depending on the particular part you're trying to blend, and just blend like that. So I have a shadow here, I'm just going to blend that shadow like that. And I'm going to reduce the size and I'm just going to blend this particular part like that. So make sure you don't leave an area unturned, and if at all you accidentally leave out a particular area, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a second method you can use to achieve a cleaner result out of your skin retouching process in Photoshop. So we are basically blending the tones depending on how bright or how dark the area is. So like for this case, I'm blending the midtones right there. I'm going to come right this side and I'm just going to blend those kind of shadows, then increase and blend the midtones right here, and reduce on the size because I have some kind of shadows. Then I have this shadow on the nose and I'm just going to come and blend it alone like that. Then blend right there, blend this side of the nose too, and get rid of those uneven skin tones in those particular areas. Then I have a highlight, I'm just going to blend it alone like that. So keep on checking on your progress, like I said before, by turning on the black and white layer, turning it on and off. So let's see the progress so far. This is the image before after. So I'm just going to zoom out like that, and I'm going to get back to my brush or mixer brush tool and just continue blending or harmonizing the skin tones so that they can really have nice transitions between or amongst them. So that is what I'm doing, and the mixer brush tool is really a powerful tool when used correctly. Like even if you're using micro dodging and burning, you can as well incorporate the mixer brush tool to save time so that you don't have to work a lot on the image. So come and now we can now brighten up like that to have really a nice view of the areas we haven't selected. And after brightening up, by brightening up, I just double clicked right here and I brightened up by moving towards the right hand side like that. So close this and select your tones layer and just continue blending on the chest area. I know most retouchers tend to forget these vital areas, but you're with Ronnix and you won't be able to do the same mistake. So let's just blend like that. You can see what it is doing or the effect it is having on this very image. So just harmonizing those uneven skin tones on the lower part of the model's body to have beautiful skin tones like that. So let's come this side and just blend or harmonize those particular areas like that. So let's see what we have done so far on the chest area. So turn off the black and white layer you can see the before and after. Before, after, you have just gotten rid of this bumpiness. So come and now continue harmonizing while you have selected your color or low frequency layer or skin tones layer, and continue blending the skin tones in the image. You know, my policy is I don't forward anything because I don't want you guys to look at me like I'm a magician. I want you guys to follow along every single step I follow to achieve the results. I don't want forward and come like boom, you guys, you can see what I've just done. I want you guys to see the transition or the build up of the skin retouching process in all my tutorials. So I'm just not going to forward anything, so don't expect me to forward anything. Yeah, because I want even a beginner out there to really appreciate their time they spend while watching such a tutorial. I know this is really a priceless tutorial and is going to change or transform your overall photography and retouching game in general. So let's see the before and after so far. Turn this off and we can see the before and after right now. So like I said, you can as well work without the help of the black and white layer to see those areas you haven't blended quite well on the image. So for this case, I've just turned it off to just blend the areas I may have missed out. So let's see a before and after. Before, after, before, after. I'm going to turn this off. Before, after, before, after. So I can as well come and blend that area. So I'm going to come and select the black and white layer, and I'm going to come and hit delete to get rid of it, because right now I no longer need the black and white layer. Come back and select the color or skin tones layer once again, and come to the lasso tool. So come and select the lasso tool, and make sure you use a feathering of around 24 pixels, because we want a refined selection. Zoom into the image. So right now you have no fault zooming into the image all the way. So I'm just going to reduce on that. So make a reasonable zoom and select only on the skin area like that. Don't select the hair, but just select only the skin of the model like that. And after you have done that selection, basically what we are doing right now, we just want to refine the areas we may have missed out when we are trying to blend using the mixer brush tool. So for this method, after making a selection on the skin area, and the other thing you have to consider is make those selections according to how light is falling on a particular area in that given image. So you can see this shape is just for the forehead. Now the next shape may be for this part of the cheek like that, and we can continue doing that. So come back to filter after making your selection, come to blur and come to Gaussian blur, and for this case you can now zoom out like that to see a nice image. And now start moving this towards the right hand side. You can see it had initially brought for me the 9, because that is what we used when we are doing our frequency separation or dividing the image. So you just have to continue towards the right hand side from whichever radius you may have used while creating your frequency separation group. So I'm just going to move it. I think move it until you don't have to cram these figures. Move it until you feel like the skin texture is really nice and applies to your image and it looks natural and realistic. So come and hit OK. So we want to apply this effect onto the rest of the image. So I'm just going to zoom in like that, and I'm going to make those shapes the way light is falling on the particular image or part of the image. So right click and click on Gaussian blur, and if at all you feel the effect is too much, click Shift Ctrl F or Shift Command F, and it's going to bring up this, so you can just come and reduce the opacity of that effect on a particular area. So I'm just going to come and draw those shapes like that. Right click and click on Gaussian Blur. So like I said, I'm not a person that uses shortcuts in my tutorials. I want you guys to see each and everything. So it's just basically trying to refine the face of the model, or refining the areas we may have missed out while using the mixer brush tool to harmonize the skin tones of this very image. And you can see where I'm drawing shapes is the way light is falling on that particular area. So you can come to the nose area like that and make that beautiful shape. Right click and apply the Gaussian blur, then come right this side, so that shape, right click, apply Gaussian blur. So I've seen some retouchers out there are trying to retouch images, and when they come to this beautiful highlight, you can see it is really beautiful, and they apply the Gaussian blur. They leave it the way it is, and when you leave it the way it is going to remove that beautiful highlight. So if at all you leave it at that radius, the nose is going to look flat. So make sure you reduce on the opacity if at all you want to apply the effect on that particular area anyway. So I'm just going to go with 8% for that area, and I'm just going to zoom in like that and come and apply the effect right this side. So basically I'm just trying to refine the image, or refine those areas I may have missed out while I was using the mixer brush tool. I hope you guys can see what I've just done, and you can see the image is now turning out to look more beautiful and amazing. So that is the before after. So I can as well come right here and right click and apply it on the Gaussian blur, or come and reduce on the effect if at all it is too much. So I'm just going to come apply my Gaussian blur right there, right click, apply Gaussian blur, and if at all I feel it is too much, click Shift Ctrl F, Shift Command F for Mac to reduce on the effect of that particular area. I think that is looking fine and nice and amazing. So I'm just going to come and apply it right there. So let me show you guys the before and after for our skin retouching so far. So this is the image before after. You can see that the image is now looking beautiful and more glamorous and amazing. So I'm going to close this. So we are done doing skin retouching, but remember we still have some imperfect areas. So I'm just going to apply the effect right there. So I'm going to close this. So up next, I would love to show you guys how to add more shape or dimension to your images, and for this case we are going to be using the method for dodging and burning. And for this tutorial, because I don't want it to be a really long tutorial, we're just going to be using the one for drawing lines to bring back shape or dimension to the image by dodging and burning. So basically, dodging and burning is more of enhancing the highlights and the shadows in a given image. So we're going to use curves for dodging and burning. Remember, when we are retouching, it tends to flatten or remove the shape or distort the shape of the images, or of the face or the models, or the particular parts of the images we are trying to retouch. So you're going to come to the curves and you're going to dodge and burn. So come and select curves, then make a midpoint like that and brighten. So you don't have to take it, just take it above until the image starts looking overexposed. So make sure the mask is selected. Hit Ctrl or Command I on the keyboard to invert or hide that effect. So remember, black hides and white reveals. So when you're brightening will be dodging. That is why I'm going to name this dodge. And when we are darkening will be burning. So we're going to make a second one. Come to curves, make a midpoint and darken until the image is underexposed. Close this, make sure the white mask is selected. Hit Ctrl or Command I on the keyboard to hide the effect. Double click and you're going to name that burn. You're going to now select both layers, and after hit Ctrl or Command G on the keyboard to group them. and we're going to name that D and B for dodge and burn. Then after doing so, open this group, and we are going to come right here, right click and get the brush tool. So this is the normal brush tool. First of all, we want to dodge, and remember when you're dodging, we dodge the highlights, and when burning, we burn the shadows. So we're going to reset this so to get black and white on these two boxes by clicking right there to get black and white. So we are going to convert the brush to be a white brush because we want to reveal what was hidden behind the black mask. So make sure white is on top, and to get it on top, click X or press X on the keyboard, or just click on these arrows to get white on top. Zoom into the image like that, and now draw lines. So you have to make this brush really small because of the reason I'm about to show you guys. So just draw a line where you have those beautiful highlights in the image. So we have a highlight right there. Draw a line right there. We have a highlight. Sorry about that. Then we have a highlight right here. I'm drawing really tiny lines, so you have to make these lines really tiny because of the reason I'm going to show you guys in this very tutorial. So we have a highlight right there. So basically, I think we are done drawing the highlights on the image. Then come and do the same for the shadows. Select the burn layer and start drawing lines everywhere you feel there is a shadow in this very image. So you're just going to draw a line right there. Come to this side of the nose and just draw a line. Then we have a shadow right there. We have one right here and some shadow right there, and we have a shadow right there. So basically those are areas we want to you can see the white areas are for our dodging, and the black or brown areas are going to be for our burning. So come and make sure this black mask is selected. Come to window and come to right down to properties. Then the reason for drawing those small lines is because when we are now feathering, this line tends to spill or expand while it is blending into the skin tone. So you can see I'm going to start moving, and you can see the line is now getting big. I hope you guys can see that. So we're going to start moving until that line has completely dissolved into the skin like that. So you can see the before and after for our burning. So I think that was okay. That is the burning. So select the dodge and do the same. Move the feathering while the density is still at 100. Move the feathering up to when the lines really dissolve into the skin of the model like that. So after you feel like they have dissolved into the skin, make sure you see the progress so far for our dodging, and I feel like that is a little too much. I'm just going to leave it at that. But when using this method for your dodging and burning, it tends to affect the colors. So what you're going to do, you're going to change the blending mode from normal, and you're going to change it to luminosity so that it doesn't affect the colors. And same for the dodging, for the burning, sorry, change it to luminosity, and you can see a before and after, before, after, before, after. And if at all you feel like you don't want the effect to be applied on a given part, select that particular area and change the brush, from white to black, and erase or eliminate that effect. And if at all you feel maybe the burning was too much, you can select burning and reduce on the opacity like this. Or if at all you feel the general thing was too much, you can just drop down the opacity of the overall group. So this is the image before, after, before, after. So what I want to do, I want to do a little bit more of eye and teeth whitening for this very model. So I'm going to come and create a stamp visible layer by hitting Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard, Shift Alternate Command E for Mac users, and I'm going to duplicate that by hitting Control or Command J on the keyboard. And before I can duplicate it, I'm just going to hit Command Z and add a little bit of blacks to my dark areas in this very image. So I'm going to come to Selective Color and come to the blacks, and right down we have black, and I'm just going to pull the black up like that to around 5. So you can see the image is really looking nice. You can see before and after, and I've darkened the distracting background. So I'm going to create another stamp visible layer by hitting Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard, Shift Alternate Command E for Mac. I'm just going to duplicate that by hitting Control or Command J. Come back to Filter and come to the Camaro Filter. I hope you guys are really taking notes and understanding each and every step I'm following for this tutorial. Then this is the Camaro Filter, and I'm just going to get a zoom tool, or you can simply hit Ctrl or Command plus to zoom in. So for this case, I'm just going to double tap since I have my zoom tool. Hold down the space bar key and click and move to until I have my eyes in the frame. Then come and select my adjustment brush tool, or you can simply click K on the keyboard to get to your adjustment brush tool. So you want to do the eye and teeth whitening for this model, and when you're doing your eye and teeth whitening, you have to make sure you know the colors in the white area of the eye. So for this case, we have some yellow color in the white area of the eye, and the opposite of yellow is, so right down here we have settings for the mix adjustment brush tool. So the opposite of yellow is blue, so you have to move this slider until we have a reasonable color. So we're going to go with around 27. Then the tint we are going to go with around 60 for this image, because we want to retain some kind of reds in the white area of the eye. Then since we want to brighten them a little bit or make them pop, we're going to increase the highlights to around 4 and the whites to around 4. Then since we have color in the white area of the eye, we're going to come to the saturation and we're going to knock it down like that, but not all the way to around, we're going to go with around negative 60 for this image. And after doing so, start painting over the white area of the eye. So you are basically whitening the white area of the eye and not the overall eye. So just come and paint over the white area of the eye like that. And when you do that, you will notice that the eyes are going to start to look white. So you can as well intensify this beautiful catch light by just painting over it. And now come towards this side and do the same for this other eye like that. So I'm basically painting only on what I feel should be white in the eye. And I'm not painting over this corner, because when you paint over it, the eyes are going to look unrealistic or unnatural. So you don't want that to happen to us as photographers or retouchers. So I'm going to move zoom out like that, and I'm going to come to the teeth too, and I'm going to whiten the teeth. And when you're doing it for the teeth, make sure you whiten each and every individual tooth alone. Make sure you don't just paint over the teeth as a whole, because it is also going to affect or whiten the gums, which you don't want, and it is going to desaturate them. So make sure you're really careful with this step, because we want to be really nice and precise when doing the teeth or the eye and teeth whitening for our images. So let's paint over the teeth like that. I hope you guys are really learning something from this very tutorial. So let's just come and paint over these teeth like that. Like that. I hope you guys are learning and taking notes. So I think we are done whitening the teeth. So you can see the difference it has made, or the life it has brought onto this image. So I'm going to open the image like that back into my Photoshop interface. So I feel like the image is really warm, and I would love to reduce on the amount of warmth. But if at all you feel like your eye and teeth whitening is too much, you can come to the opacity and you can knock down or reduce on the opacity of the eye and teeth whitening to the one of your liking. So I feel like the image is warm, so come right down here and come to photo filter. Then after doing so, come drop down and look for cooling filter 82. So when you do that, it's going to cool down your image, and I feel like that is too much. Just come to the density and knock it down slightly to the one of your liking as a retoucher or photographer, because different retouchers or different photographers have different tastes regarding color. So I'm just going to knock that down like that to around 8, so you can see the before and the after, before after. So what I would love to do, I think the image is really nice and we have done a pretty nice job. So I'm going to create another last stamp visible by hitting Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard, Shift Alternate Command E on the keyboard. And I'm going to clean up the image even more by getting my spot healing brush tool, zooming in and looking for those tiny blemishes we may have missed out in this very image. So I'm just going to remove those, and I feel like I've done it all. Maybe cleaning up the eye slightly. I think this left eye, by removing this kind of patches like that. So I think that looks okay to me. So what I would love to do, I would love to show you guys the best way to save your images so that they don't have a change in color or a color shift in Photoshop. And in order to do that, we are going to come right here. We are not going to be using file. We are not going to be using save or save as. But for this case, in order to save your images so that they don't have a color shift or a color change in Photoshop, we're going to come right here to export and come to export as. So I want to show you guys the best way to export your images that are going to be really sharp and are not going to have a color shift or a color change when you post them on social media or when you use a different device to view your images. So I think this is the image we have right now. So come under a format, of course we need JPEG because most devices and websites or social media platforms support a JPEG format. Then I'm going to leave all these at their defaults. Then resample, I'm going to go with bicubic sharper because I need a really sharp image for posting on social media. Then after doing that, this is where you have to select these options really nice and well. So come and you have two options right here, convert to sRGB and embed color profile. The reason that's why your image changes color when you post them is because you don't embed the color profile and converting to RGB and having both combined into the image after you have retouched them. So come and select embed color profile, and after doing so you have now embedded or put or incorporated these colors into your images, and when you post it, it is not going to be changing color in any way or the other. And after you have approved all these settings, you can come and hit export. So you can name this maybe whichever you want, and now after doing so, select a location. For this case, I'm going to go with my desktop and hit save, and the image is going to be saved in that destination or that folder that or where you'd love your image to be saved, and it is automatically going to close this window for you after it has saved the image. So I want to show you guys the before and the after for this very image. I'm going to scroll all the way down, hold down the alternate key and hit on this eye icon to show you guys the before and after, before, after, before, after. So basically, this is how you do your skin retouching in Photoshop by using frequency separation, dodging and burning, eye and teeth whitening, color grading, and finally saving your images so that they don't have a color shift or a color change in Photoshop. I'm Ronnix from Ronnix Photography. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in yet more tutorials to come. And don't forget to keep practicing and keep creating.